Welcome to Journaling with Nature, the podcast for those who want to turn curiosity into wonder, a pencil sketch into a rabbit hole of discovery, a moment of stillness into a life full of joy. I'm your host, Bethan Burton. Let's open the pages of our nature journals and explore this world together. Hello, this is episode 93. So International Nature Journaling Week is finished for another year. I was so thrilled about how it went, even though I got sick right at the end of the week and had to cancel my final workshop. There were people from all around the world responding to the prompts, joining the live workshops, and sharing their stories. And there was just a really strong sense of warmth and connection between people. The themes that we set for each day were quite broad and very heart-centered, and I loved looking at the posts and the different ways that people interpreted these themes. I was flat out busy during the week and I didn't get a chance to look at all the pages that I wanted to that were posted on social media, but now that things are quieter and I've recovered from my cold, I plan to go back and look at some of the posts and reply and discover even more about what people were up to during the event. One lovely connection that was deepened during International Nature Journaling Week was with today's podcast guest. Marion Ooijevaar participated in the first event during the week, and as she was speaking, I knew I wanted to talk to her on the podcast. She has a very calm and connected way of speaking, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing her insights and experiences as an environmental educator and nature connection guide. In our conversation, we spoke about eco-psychology, observing nature with all of our senses, and the importance of play in our nature journals. Let's listen. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you a little more and learning more about your story.
Thank you for asking me.
So I have been reading your blog, thanks in big part to Google Translate. But I loved reading about your history and the beautiful ways that you spent time in nature as a child. And I think that your parents were really instrumental in bringing you to nature in your childhood.
Definitely.
And I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they've been I think they've started my love of nature. And it also that when I studied later on when I started studying studied landscape architecture actually. Um because I loved nature, biology, and I loved drawing and being creative. So I thought, oh well, I'll do landscape architecture. But my parents, they installed that love for nature in me. We always went for walks, and then we brought books with us. And so we looked things up. When I remember a birthday party when they did a trail, like a treasure trail in the forest, and then we found the treasure, which was candy, of course. Yeah, it's really nice. And I grew up in the 70s, so my parents were a bit hippie-ish, not very much, very Dutch hippie-ish, so that's very down to earth. But yeah, we're drying our own fruits. And my dad, I remember making beautiful pendants of slices of wood that we sanded down so that they shine, and then you hang it around your neck, and they were really beautiful and things like that. They were very connected to nature, and I think that's why I am it too. So when I started studying and I started doing landscape architecture, I realized that the designing of that on that scale was not for me, but I loved teaching about it. And I switched to environmental education, and in the end I did a research about how to connect children to nature, because I realized that my childhood connection was so important for the choices I made later on in life. And
Mm.
the thing why I studied, and that to make sustainable choices in your life, to care for your surroundings, and to realize that you're part of it. That started when I was young, so that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do environmental education and teach young children. It didn't go to plan afterwards because of lack of jobs, but in the end, I did get a job for a while at I became a teacher, primary school teacher, so I could do a bit of that, a bit of nature education as well. Then I also worked at an environmental education center for a few years. Um, but I also I'm also an English teacher, and now I am teaching um, student young students who want to become a primary school teacher. So I'm in teacher education, and I teach English, how to teach English, and I teach environmental education. So it all comes together in the end after
Yeah.
many years. So yeah,
I love that you recognize that that was really important for you.
yeah,
Someone, a mentor, in your parents brought that to you and something you've carried on for the rest of your life. And now that
definitely.
you can do that for others.
Yeah, definitely. I ask my students when I teach them now, what is your memory of learning about history, geography, and nature, because those are the subjects that they teach in primary school. Um, what 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 memories last? Are those the things that you've learned from books, or was it when you went to visit the museum, or when you went pond dipping, or and then their eyes sort of, ah, yes, it's
Yeah.
those memories when we really did something and experienced things, and those are the things that last. So then I encourage them to do that more, because it is hard when you're a primary school teacher to get the time, make the time to get children outside, to really, yeah, have them, let them experience nature. And so, yeah,
Yeah, that's really significant. And that understanding that it's the experiential things that stick with us. It's the things
yeah,
that make us have a reaction of awe or a reaction of
exactly.
surprise. Yeah.
Yes. And using all your senses. That's something I also studied when I studied. Uh, I did a course in eco psychology.
Mm.
So, and they recognize many, many more senses than just the five senses of hearing, and also the importance of using uh, all those senses and to connect with your surroundings, with nature, through all the senses to be whole, really. Um, so they attribute lots of problems in society because of the lack of connection with our senses, and people feel an emptiness and they fill it with things like eating or shopping or consuming things, whereas through nature connection, whether that is just being outside in nature or nature journaling and drawing and all kinds of things, through nature connection you use all those senses and you become aware of them, and it fills you up, it makes you happy. So you don't need all those other things to make you whole, which I think is
Yeah.
a really beautiful thought as well.
100%. And you write about this beautiful activity that you help others, that you guide others through, and that is to go outside and just see what's attracting your attention. And it's those things, it could be those things that you need. And you give the example that you were taking a walk and it was soft things that you were attracted to.
Yes.
Tell me more about this guided activity that you do.
Oh, well, that's what I do indeed. So you go out and you just let you first I ground myself, so I feel my feet, so I'm sort of out of my head and try to be more in the moment in my body, and I just try to use all my senses. So you look around, you touch things. What do I hear? What do I smell? So I mentally go through them. And
Mhm.
when I see something that attracts me, I try to use my other senses as well. Um, and sometimes that can be, yeah, that can give you a message. So if you feel really, as you said in that blog, if you feel really attracted to, I felt really attracted to soft things. I saw a beautiful soft feather, and then I thought, maybe that is what I need at this moment in my life. I should pay more attention to being soft, treat
Yeah.
myself more softly, or being kind to myself. Um, yeah, so it reminds you of something that you need yourself. It can be. It doesn't always have to be, but it can
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
I think this is an incredibly powerful thing, and I would like to do that myself. Just go out and be aware of like what's attracting my attention now, and is there something underlying that needs attention in my life? I think
Yeah.
this is a really powerful thing.
Yeah, you can use the tool or the activity where you name the thing and you say I I I'm attracted to it because
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful because or I like it because and then instead of the thing you say I'm attracted to myself because
Mm.
I love
Mm.
myself because uh,
Yeah.
and then does that and then you can feel if that rings or not.
Yes.
um, that's also a really nice way of doing it. Hmm.
That's really powerful. I'm glad to have come across that
Yeah,
activity through your blog. I'm wondering, so it sounds like creativity has always been inside you and this attraction with to nature has always been there. And I wonder if you could tell me the story of coming to nature art and nature journaling.
yeah. Well, um, I think that started in lockdown mostly, because I s- I did I wanted to share my love of nature and the things I see in my surroundings with others and
Mm.
talk about. And so I took photos, and I still do that. I place a photo daily on Instagram, and often I tell something about what inspired me or what attracted me, or some facts about what I see, so that people can learn from it. I'm a teacher after all.
Mm.
And but then lockdown came, and I started taking up drawing again because I always loved doing it, and
Mm.
I just had so much more time because I didn't have to travel and we couldn't go anywhere, and we have a small but lovely garden. So yeah, that's how I started drawing again, and I really liked doing it. Also because because you really you look closely, you observe more, you see more, but the whole process itself is like a meditation to me as
Yeah.
well. It's a still point, and it's a way of connecting, another way of connecting to what you see around you. That's it's really due to lockdown.
Yeah, I think the lockdown has brought a lot of people to this practice, and
Yeah,
I'm grateful to that. I think it's something that lots of people needed at that time, and it was the perfect thing.
yeah, me too, me too, and I hope people continue doing it now. You know,
Yeah,
whereas because here it looks like nothing. There's no COVID anymore. There is, of course,
yeah,
but yeah, but it's not. Yeah, we don't have to protect ourselves against it at the moment. So people are now again going to the theatre, going out and
yeah,
forgetting that that still point was really nice and important. So
yeah,
I hope people will uh, keep recognizing that feeling. And yeah,
yeah. That's such an interesting thing, isn't it? That I think a lot of people came to a still point during that period of our history, and realized like, oh, maybe I was forgetting or neglecting this.
yeah.
But it is easy to go back to normal routine, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. I can see that in my students as well.
Yeah.
But also because I did with adult students. So I teach students who are straight from high school, but also those who choose to become a teacher as a second career. And I took a group of them out for some nature sensing experiences. So
Mhm.
yeah, using all your senses, and then I continued into drawing, observing, and drawing nature. And they really liked it, and they also said, "Oh, this is something that I can do more and should do more because it's really busy and demanding being a teacher."
Yes.
So yeah, that was yeah, it's only a small group, but I hope I'll be able to spread that word.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to know about nature journaling in the Netherlands and whether there's a community there, whether it's growing or
There
what's that
is.
like?
Yeah, there is. I've met a few, not in person, but online. There's a Facebook group. I think Gerry Pauls who set it up, and there are a few people that I was following on or finding on Instagram that turned out to be part of that group. So yeah, there's quite a lot. There is a growing group of people who are interested in it and sharing their enthusiasm and work for it. So that's really nice. And I might even with one of them with Monique, we'll probably give a workshop in August, the end of August, together for a group of volunteers from a nature education group. So it will be interesting.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's so good. I think in terms of nature journaling, it's really, I mean, what am I saying? A lot of the resources and workshops and things that are coming out are in English, and I think it's really important
Mm.
to have nature journal teachers teaching in languages other than English.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think so too. For me, it's no problem. But yeah, there are quite a few people who who are not as good in English or foreign languages, and it would be nice to have more in Dutch. Yeah, so maybe
Mhm.
I don't know, but I when I look at nature journaling, I always feel that I'm not a true nature journaler because I don't use words very much. I do use it in the comments when I share things and when I talk about things, but I find it when I draw something, I always feel like, oh, I don't want to add words. It's too, I want it.
Yeah,
I like it
I
as
like it
a
as it is.
drawing.
Yeah. Well,
So,
okay, these are my thoughts on that. Um, I really think that there is no rules and no definition. I mean, some people say this is what a nature journal looks like, and I really don't subscribe to that. I think nature journaling is putting our using creativity to capture our observations of nature. And so I interviewed a lady who uses eye makeup to capture her observations of animals and plants.
wow.
And, I think there's no right or wrong way. And so
No.
I think if anyone is using creativity and capturing their nature observations, then that to me is nature journaling. But I
Yeah.
do, and I totally understand that feeling of like this is perfect as it is when you put when you put your
Yeah.
drawing down.
Yeah. And it's it's an expression of the experience. And I have already looked, and I do because I am so interested in nature. I already know quite a lot about it by observing and looking things up. So I do all that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, oh, that was so nice. I saw a few years ago. It was the first time I saw a bee beetle in our garden. I'd never seen one before. I thought, wow, this is a beautiful, beautiful little beetle. It's a small beetle that looks a bit like a bee, hence the
Okay.
name, but it's a little bit hairy and it's really amazing. So I looked up where it came from, and apparently it's with climate change. It's coming from the south,
Oh, its range
and
is spreading.
yeah, so it's now more common in the Netherlands, and in the UK, it's in the south of the UK. You can see them sometimes. But I saw one last week. No, earlier this week, sleeping in the flower of a bramble, and that is just so nice. So I walked past with my dog and I saw something from the corner of my eye and I thought, what's that? Is it a bee sleeping? Because they do that as well. And then it was this beautiful, beautiful bee beetle asleep in the flower. And then and I notice it because I know that bees sleep in flowers. I've learned that, and I recognize the beetle because I've learned about it as well. So it's yeah,
That's amazing.
but it was so beautiful.
I've never in my entire life thought about where does a beetle sleep?
Yeah, and bees too. They sleep in flowers as well.
I thought bees return to the hives. I guess,
The solitary ones don't.
solitary bees sleep somewhere down
Yeah, hollyhocks are perfect as well. They often the small bees, solitary bees, sleep in hollyhocks.
That is incredible. I've
Hmm.
never thought about that ever.
Yeah, it was so cute. It was really beautiful. So yeah, and then I take a photo and I share that and I comment on
Yeah,
it and I
yeah.
tell people about bee beetles and that they sleep in. No, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tell
that's
tell me about this, the feeling of taking a photo versus the feeling of drawing, and what is the same and what's different? Because you obviously have
yeah,
a different way of connecting.
good question. Well, I think taking a photo is more fleeting. It's you see something like, oh, I take a photo and then I can share it. Whereas
Mhm.
when I draw, you really you really slow down, and you really have to observe and look closely. And it's also it feels more like a celebration of the thing that you see
Mhm.
when you can capture it through art. Whereas taking a photo is, yeah, it's a bit superficial compared to drawing it. And but often what I find is that I might draw from a photo this time, because I haven't,
Yes.
it's not there anymore. But I might draw this as well. So I take a photo of it, and then later on I think, oh, this is so beautiful. I want to do more with it, and celebrate it in another way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is there's even something special about that. I mean, drawing from your own photographs because it's like you have an experience with nature through the photograph, and then you're even going deeper by drawing from your own photograph. It's very different drawing from your own experience, your own photograph, than it is taking
Yes.
someone else's photograph.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I hardly do that. I
Mm.
hardly draw from photos that I see online. Sometimes when I make a birthday card and I want,
Mm.
a particular flower, I look it up. But no, it's always either my own photos, or it's more and more nowadays. It's just going out and
Mm.
from real life and drawing. But I wasn't when I first started. I wasn't confident enough to do that. I didn't know how to do that. So it grew, and I developed and started
Tell
with
me,
line drawings. Yeah,
tell me about that transition going from drawing
photographs
from
to
photographs to drawing from life.
yeah. Well, it's through sharing my drawings in groups on Facebook and getting encouragement from others. And um yeah, what really helped me is to start with continuous line drawings,
Mhm.
um because uh when I find it difficult in a photo. It's easier to see the lines and where they go, whereas in real life, when it's 3D, it's more difficult. So I had to
Mhm.
train that again. So I had to relearn, because I used to be able to do that, but that was a long time ago. So yeah, continuous line drawings helped, and just observing. And I knew how to observe. I knew, because I've uh, the good thing about studying landscape architecture is that I also learned watercoloring, and a few of those things, and drawing in nature, to sketch and what you want to design. So um, yeah, it's just practice, looking at the lines. And I really liked, I preferred it, because it was different when I was outside, because you're
Mm.
even more immersed in the subject than when you draw from a photo. It's From a photo, it's there's still the distance. You can't use all your senses.
Yeah, so I was gonna say in terms of a sensory experience, if you're
Yeah.
indoors with a photograph, you're not getting extra stimulation, you're
No,
not you haven't got the sun or the wind on you and
exactly. Or hear the birds, or suddenly a bee appears when you're drawing a flower, or yeah, yeah. So I prefer going outside. And what I want to do more, and I still don't do often, I often go into the garden, but I sometimes go somewhere else and
Mhm.
take a still with me and my equipment, and then sit down and draw there. And I really, really like that. But I don't do that often enough, because it
Mm.
takes more there's a more preparation and more,
Yes.
yeah.
Investment.
So yeah.
Yeah, when you said that about the bee coming by, it reminded me I was drawing a page that was a series of, drawings of the same nasturtium flower,
Oh,
and I got to know this one particular flower and very much loved this individual flower, and one day when I was sketching it, a native bee came to pollinate the flower, and I learned where the bee entered the flower and how it moved while I was just sketching. It was quite astonishing and quite a
yeah.
moving experience.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Then you feel that, yeah, you really experience that you're part of the same world, and
Yeah,
not just an observer, but you're connected. Yeah.
yeah. Tell me a little bit more. You said you had a small garden. I always love to get a bit of context about nature. around my guests, and I wonder what you see when you go outside.
Right. Well, in general, the Netherlands is very highly populated. So our nature areas are like tiny stamps compared to yours. So we really there's I don't think there is an area in the Netherlands. There maybe in the center at the Veluwe, but it's a place where you go where you don't hear any cars, for example,
Mhm.
or there's always other people. So it's a different way of experiencing nature. It's you have to look more closely and look more at detail. So I do that naturally, maybe because I'm Dutch. But my garden, yeah, my garden is it's a we have an end of terrace house with
Mhm.
our garden is about 8 meters by 12 at the back. There's a shed, and but we packed it to the rim with plants. It's really when you compare it to our neighbors who have artificial lawns and lots of it's a jungle. So we
What
have
sort of thing have you planted in there?
we've got a birch tree, and I've got three what do you call it, espalier apples, and
Wow.
we've got a small medlar tree. We have raised beds, three raised beds with vegetables. We have two chickens,
Oh,
um,
wow.
a small wall glass house. It's
Oh,
plastic, but
wow.
it's. And then we have uh, the part where we have our plants, our flowers and stuff. And then we dug in two small pots, really. I think they are 60 centimeters wide, and there's frogs in there,
Oh, you
and
made a little pond.
yeah, too many ponds. But you only have to dig in. Well, it's not more than it's a bit more than a bowl, but not much more than a bowl.
Yeah.
And nature comes in, and it's really amazing. So there's frogs, and a hedgehog comes and visits, and it's just packed with plants everywhere.
That makes me so happy, and it's a really great reminder that you can do so much with a small
Yeah,
space.
I know this is a. I can show you, but others can't see it. But
Yeah.
I can just get the camera. See if I can. Ah, yeah, there we go. Ah,
Oh, wow,
can you
look at
see?
that. Oh, it looks amazing.
And this is our.
Look
Oh
at the
yeah, that's a hop.
hedge.
Yeah, that's a hop plant. That's a thug, by the way, but it's really green. So there's an apple tree as well. There are chickens.
Oh my goodness.
So it's all at a small scale, but there's lots of it.
I love that so much. That's really, really great. And as we know as nature journalists, you can spend an entire lifetime exploring the comings and goings of a very small patch of
Yeah,
land, can't you?
yeah, yeah. There's so much to see. And there's different flowers and insects, and yeah, there's lots and
That's
lots.
amazing. So you've been experimenting with making your own wild inks, and I'd love to hear about this, how you got into it, what plants you've been using, and what results you've been getting, and all that.
Yeah, well, that's also long live social media, because um, I started following Marigold. She's an artist who does a lot of mindful drawing and also ink making, and we did a workshop with her, and we made ink from oak um, caps. What do you call them? The little
Acorn?
acorn caps. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I added a bit of husk from a walnut tree. You know that where when the walnut comes out, it's really black and slimy. That so I made some pretty dark ink, and then I met someone else, and she makes lots and lots of inks. So that's how I got into it, and she showed me how to make ink from poppy leaves, poppy petals,
Wow.
and that's really easy because you just pour hot water on it, boiling water on it, and you leave it in the sun for 2 or 3 days, and then you um, drain it,
It's
and you
done.
can use it. If
Wow.
yeah, you can. If you heat it up, it can change color because that's natural ink. It changes color when it becomes more or less acidic. So you can add with the poppy ink. You think it's red, but it's purple actually. But when you
Wow.
add acid, so like citric acid or some lemon juice, it becomes more red or pink. And that's how I started looking. Oh, what else can I make? What other inks can I do? And I made what I've done loads. Rooibos tea is also a very good one.
Really? I'm gonna
Yeah,
try that tomorrow.
yeah. Just make a really, really, really strong rooibos tea, so it's not really. It's more of it's called ink because
Mm,
it's uh, watery, but it's more of an essence of the you dist- distract the colors. No, not extract the colors from nature, and you dissolve it in water mostly or alcohol, but I only use water, and that's basically it. And it's really nice to work with because it changes color.
yes.
I've got a few that when I use them, that's with the poppy ink. When I use it, it's more red, and then when it dries, it becomes more pink. Yeah, so really fun to work with, and lovely to do a drawing of a poppy with poppy ink,
Yeah,
things
I've
like
been
that.
experimenting a little bit too with this, and there is something really special about that,
Yeah,
uh, and that someone described it as the alchemy of it, that when you add a little bit of this, a little bit of lemon juice,
yeah,
it transforms.
yeah. There's this one that when I added a bit of, I think, alum, and it suddenly turned green. It's like, wow, you
That's
feel like a
wild.
witch. Yeah,
Yeah, and some have really dramatic shifts when you add, a pH modifier, and
yeah,
some don't shift much at all.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I'm still learning about that. And also, I want, yeah, it has to be easy. If it's too complicated and too difficult, I don't do it.
Yep, I'm exactly the same. Some people are experimenting now with, like, making inks and, making paints from
Yeah,
stones, and you mold them, and
yeah,
nope, and I don't have time.
me neither. Not the
So,
patience.
the inks are for me. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. I like seeing it, and I've bought a few of those
Yeah.
paints made from stones and other, but yeah, no.
I get it, I get it. Tell me about the importance of play. A couple of times in your blog, you
Mm.
mentioned play, and I just love this word, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on play.
Yeah, it's something I'm really attracted to. I'm often too serious myself, I think, and I love being more playful when I do things, but I find it difficult sometimes.
Mm.
So things that make me playful make me happy. So like drawing with my non-dominant hand, and
Yeah,
I often admire people. Oh, that's so lovely and loose. Because when I start drawing, it often becomes really precise,
yeah,
and so I try to find ways of loosening up and making it more playful for myself as well. I'm not very much worried about the results because I do so often. That really
mm,
helps. If
mhm.
you only draw occasionally, then it's the result is more important. But if you just, if you draw a lot, then okay, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work the way you want it to be. But drawing with your dominant hand, I love what it does, and
Yeah,
it's so much fun. And or doing a blind contour drawing, or yeah. So I try to find ways of making the whole experience more playful. And
yeah.
also, yeah, when I take students outside as well. Not just everything doesn't have to be serious. I like a bit of playfulness, but I have to look it up because it doesn't really come very natural to me.
It's lovely that you've recognized that this actually makes me happy, and it's not something that comes naturally and that you can deliberately walk towards instead of,
Yeah,
just waiting for it to turn up. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. I really have to do that.
And I think I completely agree that, play, it just gets us in a good mood. Every time I start a workshop, I have people do really silly exercises and playful drawing games, because so many people carry this feeling like I can't draw, this whole baggage about drawing,
Yeah,
and nobody can not laugh when you do a blind contour drawing and it comes out like
Exactly.
crazy Picasso.
Or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or and we take a stick and draw with a stick, because everything that makes that from the on start, it's not going to be perfect.
Yes.
Um, so you can let go of that. Okay, I know this is not going to be perfect because it's my non-dominant hand, or it's with a stick, or
Yes.
it's 10 seconds, and then yeah, just go for it. And then when you do other things, I tell them, try to be as playful as you were with the other things when you draw now. But that is, yeah, it's not easy for most people. And
Yeah.
yeah, same for me as well.
You talked about doing a lot of art and you've just recently finished drawing every day in May, and I'd love to
Hmm.
hear about your experience of committing to this challenge of drawing every day for a month.
For a month. Yeah. Sometimes I didn't feel like it, but the funny thing is that each time I did do something, it always made me feel better. It was so nice. I always going to the gym. I love dancing. I like doing exercises, and often people say, "Oh, but you feel so good afterwards." Yeah, that's true, but I don't like the process. But with this, I like the process and how I feel afterwards, because it makes me feel better,
Yes.
and doing it also is fun. So and I kept it small. I made a really small.
This is key, I think. So you made this beautiful book. Can you describe the book that you
Yeah,
made
it's
to sketch?
again something I learned on Instagram. You have an
Okay.
A3 piece of paper, and this case it was mixed media paper, and you fold it in squares or rectangles, and then you cut it uh, like a spiral almost, and then you fold it in different ways. So it's not a harmonica, what do you call it, concertina
Concertina
book,
book. Mhm.
that is very predictable, but it folds in all kinds of different ways, which adds the element of fun and
Play.
play, and
Totally.
makes it less daunting to do something because it's a fun book. so um
Yes.
so
Yes.
I each time you think, okay, which one am I doing now? In this is am I going to do it landscape or portrait? And sometimes it was just a quick sketch of a flower, and sometimes I took a bit longer. And also set myself the task of using pen and colored pencils, because I don't use colored pencils very
Mm.
much. And I thought it would be easy to take it along, no mess with water and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. Actually, I really enjoyed layering with colored pencils and adding colors. So I've discovered a new medium to use as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, but in the end, I couldn't stick to a whole month of just colored pencils, so I added in
Yep.
a bit of ink and other stuff. And but it was fun, and also I felt sometimes I didn't feel like it, but often also I felt, oh, I haven't drawn today yet, and I need to do it. It
Mm.
felt almost like a necessity to draw, and
Yes.
like an itch that you have to.
Yeah, like a little craving to
Yeah,
draw something.
and that's
That's
still the
beautiful.
case. So I didn't draw yesterday, and I thought, "Oh, I should do something
Something's
today."
missing. Yeah, that's a really beautiful
Yeah.
feeling. Talking about connecting with people online and learning and sharing, I know you've been involved with Angela Hennessy's Season Sketches
Yes.
Challenge, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this idea of having some pauses around the year and reflecting on what nature is like in that moment.
I think that's the first time I joined her, but I think it's a really beautiful way to um, look at nature through the seasons and see how things change. I do see that because I observe nature every day anyway, but
Mm.
it's different. It's lovely to stop and pay extra attention at certain times of the year, and especially I like I've lived in Cornwall for a while when I was studying,
Mhm.
and I really like the sense of, yeah, the Celtic way of living, and
Mhm.
it was quite present for me that I felt most connected to nature when I was in Cornwall. It was so powerful for
Mm.
me. It was a very powerful experience. Um, so it's lovely to now be back in the Netherlands. Have It's almost like a ceremony on specific times of the year, and it started
Yeah.
really early in spring, just before spring started, and then yeah, um, I did a I also made another little booklet, um, and I think I'll do that same because the 21st, of course, is the next one, 21st of June,
Mhm.
longest day for us, the shortest for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's lovely, and the little book you made, I think, has 8,
Yes,
faces, and there's 8 pauses through the year in the Celtic
you
wheel at
could
the
do
end.
that. Yeah, but I made one for one pause. So a few days around. This one
Okay,
was
beautiful.
Inbox, I think. Yeah. So this was the first one or the second one in January. Um, so I did a few drawings
Nice.
and a haiku of the beginning of spring. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Tell me about the haiku because I read that you sometimes do that, and I think it's a beautiful practice, and I wonder about your experience of that.
Well, I think putting things into words and with haiku, it's like a poem gives an extra. Um, I was going to extra layer of magic almost, but
Yeah.
it's a way of expressing your gratitude, I think,
Yes.
um, and celebrating what you see. And it's different when you try to. It's when you draw it, you already do. I already do that, but when I try
Mm,
to capture it in words, it's even stronger. I don't do it often
mm,
because it doesn't come naturally to me. But
mhm,
when I do, it's powerful. I think it's
mm,
powerful to give words to what you see and observe, and not words in the sense of uh, the technical words of what you see, but
yes,
especially the poetic part because it
yes.
touches a different level, an emotional level, or yeah. And haikus are easiest for me to do.
They're accessible
Yeah,
for everyone, and that idea that you're feeling something,
yeah,
you're experiencing something with the senses, you're having a moment of connection, and then to take a moment to reflect. And it's that moment of reflection that you have to articulate it to yourself when you're making a haiku, and that in itself is a powerful experience because it's deeply reflecting on your experience in that moment.
yeah. I think you said that perfectly. I couldn't have said it better. Exactly, it's that. It's because you have those feelings, but trying
Yes.
to put them into words, meaningful words, make it even stronger. Make yeah, and you can relive it because when I
Yes.
read it, I think, oh yeah, that was it. Because it said um, watch and listen well. You can tell spring is coming, bringing hope and joy. So
Yeah.
it's not really special, but when I read it, I think, yes, that was it. And there's a little drawing of some crocuses
Mhm.
because they were just flowering. And I thought, oh yes, that moment because I'm not very good in winter. I don't like short days. I like daylight. I don't know if I could live in Brisbane because it's too hot for me. But I always feel that I'm reborn in spring. I come out of
Yeah.
my hibernation,
Yeah.
and it's just that feeling of hope and joy
Mm.
and yeah. That's
Tell me about that. I'm really fascinated by, like, seasonal firsts,
mm.
and I wonder if that's significant for you when this particular bird arrives back or this particular flower blossoms. Is that
Yeah.
significant for you?
It is. It is. Yeah. So the daffodils and snowdrops in spring, of course, they
Mm.
really signal the beginning of spring. When you hear the birds singing again in spring in the morning, and now I wake up at 5 o'clock because they're so loud. But it's it's really, I like that, and the return of the swifts. We have swifts coming into. They have a nest underneath the roof of our house in the corner,
Yeah.
and each year they come back, and they're so amazing. Um, the way they flit around the house and catch, and that's always the beginning of spring of summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the smell in the air in autumn when you think, oh yeah, it's cooling down, and you can. I love having four seasons, and
Yeah.
even though I'm always a bit sad and a bit more down in winter, it, the reawakening in spring is more powerful because of the darkness that goes before. So yeah,
Yeah, that is so interesting. I mean, yes, of course. When our cold period comes, I always feel like, oh, do we have to do this again? Like I want it to be, you know,
yeah,
the inter seasons, not too hot, not too cold.
yeah,
But you're totally right. If it's like that the whole year, you miss out on that reawakening. You miss out on the explosion of new growth and all those beautiful things.
yeah. New life and all those colors, and in spring there's so many different greens. And then in
Yeah,
summer they sort of blend into more of, there's still lots of greens, but they're not so much, not so many as in spring. Yeah, I love spring. That's my favorite season. Autumn is beautiful too, but autumn always makes me a little bit sad because the days are
you know
shortening,
what's
and
coming.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's coming. And summer, of course, is lovely too, but yeah, but spring is my season.
I love that. It must be so thrilling to have everything waking up and reawakening, I should say. I
Yeah.
remember I spent a year in England and I arrived in winter and I left again in winter and I spent the I spent the spring in Yorkshire, and
Oh,
everyone was in such a different mood. It was quite astonishing, the change
yes.
in mood that
Yeah.
happened when the sun comes out and the
Yeah.
flowers are blooming. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. People are happy, and yeah, they start talking to each other more. It, and it's in a way it's lovely too, because then if you can just go with that flow and turn inwards a little bit more in winter and more reflective and calm inside,
Yes,
and then move with that is really nice. Modern life unfortunately isn't always that way, because we just have to work
you have to keep
regardless.
going.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
work, so, and it doesn't matter if it's winter or
yeah,
summer. So but in my private life I do try to uh yeah, take that into account. And winter for me is also about reading more and
mm,
and needlework or repairing and stuff like that. And then in summer
it's quite
you
beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I really love the idea of eating with the seasons as well, so that
Mm.
your body needs warmth in winter and you eat more root vegetables and the things that are in season, and
Yeah,
yeah, I really like that. I think that's quite a powerful nature connection, just
yeah,
eating with the seasons.
definitely, definitely. And that's the joy when you grow your own. Then you know what how that goes as well. You know how it works.
Do you nature journal your garden? Your veggie garden, I should say.
I have sometimes. Yeah, yeah. I've drawn my peas and beans and lettuce. Not yet. That's a bit tricky, I think. Maybe when I do it with my left hand, that could work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I've done lettuce before in the best way as a yeah, something silly like a blind contour
Yeah,
drawing or
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Too many leaves and frills to do it for real. Yeah. Yeah. But
So
that would be it.
you're in your favorite season right now, right?
Yes.
I wonder what you've been seeing and documenting in your journal right now in this beautiful spring season.
Oh, well, uh, let me have a look. Oh, yeah, a young with like this week, young blackbirds. They visited a
Mm,
garden. Last year we had a couple who had four nests in one season in the garden. But
wow.
this time there's no nest, but they come in to feed because there's lots to find here. So there's a young blackbird. We have two um, um, two great tit
Mm-hmm.
nests now. One has just fledged, and then another, or the same couple have started one in another nesting box. So I've drawn those, and then just the flowers and the things that grow at this moment in the garden. So I have that's really nice about the whole month in May, that you can see what's in the garden in May, and what is developing, and what was at the beginning of the May, what's at the end of May.
Yeah.
Yeah, so lots of things that can be really small and insignificant to people, like mock strawberries. We have quite a few of those in the garden. You can't eat them, but they look pretty. Yeah,
It's a
lots.
special time.
Yeah, just whatever there is, whatever columbines. They're really beautiful. I
And
love
that's what I
columbines.
love. Like, you don't have to make a plan. You don't have to do anything. You just have to go out
Yeah,
and be open and ready to see what's here.
yeah. Sit down and think, oh, today I'm going to do this one, and
Yeah.
then do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolutely delightful to chat with you today.
Same. Thank you for asking me. I really enjoyed it, and really nice to get to know you a little bit better as well.
Yeah. And you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bethan.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Marion. I absolutely loved this chat, getting to know Marion a little more and hearing especially about the different ways she guides people to come back to their senses in nature, and also being in nature in a very intuitive way. I'm definitely going to try that activity that she described about taking note of the sorts of things that attract you while you're outside and listening to whether that has a deeper meaning for you in that moment and a deeper application in your life. As always, please take a look at the show notes for this episode where you'll find Marion's website and social media links. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.